Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to You've Championed Yourself. Who are you? I'm Kris Ferguson, your host. And today I have a personal favorite. She's written 2 books. She's an amazing, if you've never heard of tapping, emotional I think it's emotional frequency tapping. I might be wrong. She might correct me, and that's okay. But it's all about tapping your way through your traumas and your pains. So today I'd like to welcome Kris Ferraro here. She's an amazing, I know her personally. I've bought her book. I've been a client. So I spend some time with her. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Yes, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Okay, well, I always call it frequency because I work on the frequency. So
you do, and working with you was working on the frequency. So there you go.
It was, and you know the thing is, and it's like I tell everybody, I don't have all the answers, but I also need my mentors. I also need the people that I have are go-to people to help me out when I start going through those things that everybody 100%. Else goes through. I'm human. I'm flawed.
That's right. Me too. I have all my people too. I have a whole team of people keeping me together.
Who doesn't? If you don't, you're lying to yourself. I'm just saying, you're lying to yourself. But this morning, I wanted to talk to you about your backstory. I know your current story, and we'll get to that. But what got you into becoming this emotional freedom tapping expert?
Well, it was somebody who had a crippling anxiety condition. I think that I've always had a hyperreactive nervous system. I was somebody who was always easily startled. I was also someone who didn't sleep well from the time that I was a baby, which is also, leads me to believe that I just was born being extra sensitive as far as that goes. And when I was 8, I went through a series of testings at my school, and they pulled me out of my normal school that I was in and put me into a program for child geniuses. However, I was not a genius. And I was in this classroom with these kids who had personal tutors and were being geared to go into the Ivy League. That was not my family. That was not my background. And I also had several learning disabilities. So I had pretty serious attention deficit disorder. So focus was very challenging for me. And I had an auditory processing disorder. So when my ears would take in sound, there was a delay from when my brain interpreted what those sounds were. So that meant that I said what a lot. Someone would say something to me, I would say what, and that couple of second delay would enable my brain to catch up. So, and of course, this was the 70s. They didn't know about learning disabilities. So now I'm in this very competitive intellectual program, and I couldn't keep up. And I was falling behind. The sleeplessness grew to the worst that it ever was. So I basically didn't sleep for weeks at a time because I was up feeling terrified and scared about not finishing my work. And, doing well in school prior to this time was the only thing that gave me a boost of self-esteem. Physically, I was extremely awkward. I was uncoordinated. I couldn't jump rope like the other girls. But school up until this point had been something I was good at. And after that point, then the one thing that made me feel decent about myself all sort of fell apart. But in that, my then 4th grade teacher and all of her brilliance had me write a poetry book. So I wrote poems and I did illustrations, and she took them with cardboard and she covered the cardboard with samples from wallpaper, and she sewed with thread the pages in, and it was really my first book. And from that time, I wanted to be an author. So it took 40 years for that to be made manifest, but it did happen. So that's the good news. So after this, I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of social anxiety. It increased up through college, up into my 20s. And I think that people looked at me and thought that I was leading a fairly courageous life. I was a radio DJ at my college. I did performance art in the city. I was also a social counselor, social service counselor in Newark, New Jersey, working in the welfare department. I was leading sort of a weird kind of double life. But I was white knuckling it through all of that, which was exhausting, which was traumatizing. And it was in my late 20s. I was working part-time for a hypnotherapist because when you work in social services, you always have another job. So I had a part-time gig. And I was binding her books, and she had taken an EFT class and she wanted to experiment, and she experimented with me. And a couple of years later, I ended up taking courses, and I found that this tapping on these acupressure points brought down the very high levels of emotional intensity that I had in the present. And it was also good for resolving those unprocessed emotions and traumas from the past. So, you know, I studied for 6 years before I ever worked with another person. I took in-person classes several times a year. I read every newsletter. You know, in the meantime, I was working my day job, and eventually transitioned into that being one of my main skill set for working with clients.
And I love that because how I found you was just by happen chance, because there was something that had gone out on Facebook that you were doing a free group
Yep.
tapping session. And so I joined. I actually brought 4 of my friends along with me. And I said, come on, let's go try this out. Let's go figure it out. Let's go see what it is. We're all this adventurous type of individuals, you know. So they said, okay, let's go. And you had mentioned at that point, and that was a couple years ago, and you had just published your energy healing book.
That's right.
And so the fact was, and this is for beginners, a start here guide for beginners. And even though I wasn't a beginner, I found a lot of information in this book that, you know, just remind you of the things you forgot.
Well, because I'm working on an energetic level, energetic truth is truth. So a lot of people shared what you shared, Kris. They read the book and then they thought, oh, I think I know this stuff. It's just reminding me that I know this stuff because it's activating that truth within our very cells that we carry with us wherever we go.
But it was amazing. I highly recommend to get this book. And she has a new book out, and I've read it 3 times.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's only been out a couple months. Way to go.
I know, but I pre-ordered it when you first put it out. I got it, and then it's the practical, simple guide to creating the life you want, manifesting, by Kris Ferraro. And the fact is that and what I do in my business is I'm the manifestation specialist. I help people manifest their lives through frequencies, through energy healings, through tensor rings, through quantum physics. And so when I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in love. This book is amazing. And it was so much about the manifesting that I wanted to talk to you about the manifesting emotional alchemy.
Okay, sure. So, you know, as part of being in a human experience, I fully believe that we are spiritual beings. I believe that. I know that. I do know that we're in bodies, so we're having a human experience. And having a human experience means having to deal with feeding ourselves and getting proper rest and hygiene and all of those things that comes with having a body. And of course, it comes with being able to process our emotions that come with our emotional body. But it's one of those things that nobody ever teaches us how to do. The only things that we see reflected around us are really unhealthy ways of dealing with stress and emotions, and that's addictions, right? So you have a rough day at the office. What happens? Everybody goes out for happy hour. Well, it's not going to really solve anything temporarily. It'll relieve some stress. And if you do it a lot, it's going to cause a lot of problems later on for you. So it was really important for me to be able to teach people about the emotional piece, because in metaphysics, normally what happens is they just say, well, you just ignore the emotional piece. And so you say, oh, I am prosperous. I'm prosperous. I'm affirming that I'm prosperous. But you look in your bank account and there's only $2 in there. And the fear and anxiety that comes up is going to counteract your manifesting. So it's important that we tap through or do other processes, journaling, visualizations, to heal the emotions that are in the way of us getting to where we want to go and creating what we want to create.
I love that because in the let me back up here. So many people stay unfocused because of how fast they think in their head, and it's constantly spinning and it's constantly going. And I call it the mental tornado.
I call
And
it the mental treadmill. So, there you go. Tornado is a better description, though.
Because I keep telling all my clients, I said, if you were trying to reach up and grab some debris, there's so much junk up there flying around, it wouldn't make a difference. It wouldn't stop the overthinking. And when you're overthinking, you're not staying in the present moment.
100%.
Or if you're in the past, you're hanging out back there with things you can't change. All you're hanging on to is the emotional side of it.
That's right.
So the fact is so it's like, okay, let's get into the here and the now.
Right.
But what I'd like to talk about is the healings that you've done with people on tapping. And I remember I can talk about mine. I had been dealing with one of my callings is that I am a galactic warrior. And I fight off some bad people that try to take people's souls. And I had fought some people, and one of them had dropped their cloak on me, and I couldn't outstep it. And I couldn't get past the cloak because it was blocking my vision, my knowing, all my senses. And the first person I thought of was you, to come to you to help me get beyond this cloak. And when the Christ consciousness came to me, his face came through it, and all of a sudden his face couldn't come through it. So I knew I had a problem. And so through that, you helped me through private sessions to get beyond this and get past it and break that barrier. And I've not had a problem ever since. But the fact is that so many people don't realize when they get into alcohol and drugs and make contracts with demons that they sell their souls.
Yeah. And
the only way and this is why there's so much suicide, is the only way to pay the contract is by paying up. And the ultimate contract is your soul. That's what they want. And so this is a light and dark war. And it's very, very important that we help people who have done this and get them to be able to see it before it's too late and work them out of it. So in your healings, I know that's what you did for me, but can you expound on that?
Well, it's interesting. Every person that comes to me is a unique being, and your energy is like your fingerprint. It's completely unique to who you are. So when someone comes to a session, what I'm doing is becoming fully present with them, and energetically, I am joining hands with them, even if they're in Bali, on the other side of the world, because there is no distance in energy. And as I'm joining hands with them metaphorically, I'm creating a sacred container between them and myself, in which everything that's going on for them is allowed to be. And so we start with deep compassion for the human experience, for all that comes with having a human experience, which can be quite challenging. You just shared some of that. And in deep compassion for the courage of our souls to be here on the planets at this time, for those of us that came forward to be here at this time. And I do believe if we're here on purpose. I do believe that. And so it starts with the loving compassion for what is, and creating a safe space in which anyone can share whatever is going on for them. And while that's happening, I'm feeling in my own body often what they have going on that they may or may not even feel. So I feel areas of what I call energetic congestion, places where energy is not flowing. And those things can be a number of things. They can be beliefs that we have about ourselves or about God or life. They can be traumas from the past. They can be an incident that we just had the day before with a conflict with someone that we love. They can be ancestral, right? We're born with DNA strands coming in from two of our parents, and there is ancestral trauma. We know that that is a very, very real thing that gets carried down through some family members, right? So some of the things that people are experiencing now isn't even theirs. They just were born with it because of who they are. And there is things like you're talking about, supernatural things,
Mhm.
you know, things that we would call entities or curses.
Yes.
And so it really depends on what people are presenting. But for me, my mission statement is that my work is about enabling other people to feel the universe's love for them, that unconditional love, or God's love for them, or Christ's love for them. That's what I'm here for. And these things that are stuck in our field not only prevent us from being able to feel the love that we are and the love that we have, that we never have to prove ourselves for, that we never have to convince anyone of. We are loved. We are beautiful children of love, every single one of us. When we feel that, it's the difference between addiction and sobriety. It's the
Mhm.
difference between poverty and prosperity. Because when we suddenly get that feeling of, I'm loved, me, and I'm known more deeply than I even know myself by this higher power that treasures me,
Mm.
suddenly everything in your life shifts. And so that's my end goal. You know, and the minor goal is provide relief for whatever people are bringing in with, whether that looks like it's emotional or looks like it's physical or whatever it's coming through as. You know, I want to help people to be able to feel relieved and feel better, and then give them some tools with their very own hands that they carry with them wherever they go, to be able to calm themselves, to be able to calm the anxiety, to be able to tap through a difficult relationship and get clarity about what's that may be reflecting from their past.
I love that because in doing the healing, I do it just a little bit different way, but it's
Which is
the
great.
same end goal. It's the same end goal. And to get through to the clarity, to get through why they're blocking, what is this? Why, ask yourself, why am I feeling like I can't accomplish something? Why am I feeling like I'm stuck? Why am I feeling that I can't, um, I don't know. Why am I sabotaging myself?
Right. Well,
You
oh,
know?
that's, yeah, sabotage is a huge thing, right? And there's times I have a relationship with sabotage. We all do.
Sure.
The great healer Carolyn Mace says that we all have a saboteur archetype in us, and I believe that that is true. It is universal. So how do we work with that though? Because normally what happens is a saboteur comes up, we sabotage ourselves, then we beat up on ourselves with shame and blame.
Yes.
Yeah, we doubt our ability to do what we want to do. We don't believe that we're honoring our commitments to ourselves, so we do a number on ourselves.
Mhm.
Yet we could tap with our sabotaging. We could tap with the fact that, I've got to get up early to do a podcast recording tomorrow, and I want to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching movies on Netflix. That is a sabotage, right? So instead of doing it, around 11 o'clock, I could say, no, I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to go to bed. I want to watch movies. I don't care that I have this podcast interview in the morning. I don't need to be fresh. I want to stay up. No one's going to tell me what to do, you know? And what happens is it dissipates. And in all of that, I realize, oh, it's not Netflix that I want. Maybe I need to talk to a friend. So then I can schedule that for the next day. I find out what the need really is. And then I can meet that need in a healthier way. And then I get out of my own way.
And that is absolutely the truth of truths, because I have found when we don't have our boundaries set, we compromise ourselves more. And it's becoming comfortable with saying no to
Yes,
yourself.
100%. Yes.
So I love that. But the thing I didn't know until this morning is that you're into art and photography.
Oh, yes, I am. When I was little, I drew before I could walk. So art was always a big thing for me. And I took photography classes in high school, back in the golden age of film and dark
Mm.
rooms. And then, honestly, I lived in poverty for a very long time. So I didn't even have any decent cameras, but in the age of really nice cell phone cameras, and about 12 years ago, I bought a nice camera, and now I have an even nicer camera. Spending time doing photography for me is a way of capturing the beauty that I see in my eyes and being able to share what I see with other people.
And I think that's amazing because I try to get people to feel what I'm feeling and sharing that energy with them so that they can feel the frequency, just to raise their vibrations up from down here to up here, and saying, wow, it's okay. It's okay to say, no, I'm important enough that I can be that. I've got something else has come up, or I already have a scheduled event. You can be that event without the shame, the blame, and the guilt. So I do it through frequency. So I just love that. One of the things I wanted to, if someone wanted to reach out to you, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, it's Kris.Ferraro, Ferraro. And then Facebook.
On Twitter and EFT. I'm sorry, on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at Kris EFT, KRIS, and then the initials EFT.
Okay.
And yeah, on Facebook, you can look me up as Kris Ferraro. Kris and you and I are friends. So if you're friends with her, you'll be able to find me easily. And I have an emotional alchemy page on there, which you can also look for.
And you Be Free to Flourish. Is that another page you have?
Be Free to Flourish is the URL for my Facebook group.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Perfect. And if somebody wanted to get your website, that would be the https://www.manifestingbook.com. So this way they could come in there. I highly, highly recommend, folks, if you don't get both like I did, get at least one, and get the one that's going to help you come back to you through Kris's work, because she's an amazing individual. She knows what she's doing. She actually, if you buy a book, she has all these bonuses on her website that she hasn't talked about yet. So we're going to talk about that next. But I wanted everybody to make sure that they knew how to get a hold of Kris. And
manifestingbook.com is a great way to do it. It's connected to my krisferraro.com website, but Manifesting Book, you'll see that it's connected to the rest of my site. It's where you can press on any of the links. It's sold everywhere, and you can purchase it, and then you can go back to that page, and if you want, you can apply for and get a bunch of free resources. Because while I was writing the book, now listen, I am a self-help book card junkie, okay? And one of my pet peeves is I will read a visualization and meditation, and somehow I'm supposed to close my eyes, remember all of that stuff, but of course that uses the left brain, and then I can't get into the meditative state that I want. So all of the meditations, visualizations, and affirmations and prayers have all been recorded with beautiful recordings. So someone could just go in and listen and do the experience. All the journal questions, there's a quiz, there's a contract, have been made into downloadable PDFs. So you don't have to mark up your book. You can print it out, and then you can print it out a number of times. If you want to make contracts with yourself for manifesting different things, you can go back to them each time. The book has 2 song lists for manifestation. I went into Spotify and made those song lists. Who wants to look at a list of songs when you can listen to the songs? So
it's done for you. Basically, it's done for you.
It's done for you. And I wanted to make it easy if people wanted to do a book club. I talk often about that power of wherever 2 or more are gathered. And so doing either of my books with a group is a really wonderful thing. Even if that group is just one other person, you could create your own, hey, we'll read through this chapter. We'll do this assignment this week. And if you decide to do a book club or a group, I will come for the final meeting on Zoom for free to answer any questions that you may have had about the book and just to cheer you on.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I haven't done that yet. I've thought about it, but I'm trying to find the time.
Well, you got a lot of, you're juggling a lot there, Kris.
I am. Well, see, every week I do a weekly healing for people that show up on my channel.
Oh, I love that.
In Celestial Intuitive Readings in Facebook. And then we send it out to the collective.
Wonderful.
And then on Sundays, I do mindfulness. And that is to get everybody out of their minds, get them a fresh start so they can go to bed and start Monday morning on Monday morning and not carry it over from the past.
Way to go. Way to go, you.
So, but yeah. And, but I do have five different pages. I do have Instagram. I do have my podcast and then personal clients. So I'm like you.
We're hustling, girl. We're hustling out for the universe.
It's wanting to get the message out there because it is about the collective. It's all changing. It's all changing. And most people don't realize, and I'm going to put it here because I think you're going to agree, the biggest manifestation time of the year is 11/1 through 11/11.
Right.
And so the thing is if you don't know that, write down what you want to do. And then, as you say, write down what's preventing you from obtaining it.
Right.
Put it under your pillow and just release it to the universe.
Trust.
Absolutely.
Right. Trust. Would you like to hear a couple of interesting miracles that have happened with manifesting?
Sure. I'd love it.
Okay. So about a month ago, I had a conversation with my editor and I said, how's my book doing? We're actually talking about book number 3. There will be a 3rd book. And he said, well, I have something really interesting to share. He said, he shared with me that in Barnes and Noble, when you walk into the stores, there's tables that have books on them. And then there's end caps that are on the ends of the shelves that have books on them. And he said that the publishers pay to have their books on those tables and those end caps. My publisher did not pay to have me on those. However, my book was included with a bunch of books from pagans doing rituals and that kind of thing. So I guess they thought, oh, another way of creating what you want is manifesting, right? So I was included on this table in Barnes and Nobles across the country. And he said, the joke within the company is that you manifested a free spot onto the Barnes and Noble tables, right? So that's the first one. And then the second one is that I just learned that Marshall's, the clothing store, is going to do a test run of my book Manifesting. So they've picked up a few copies to sell in Marshall's stores. And if they do well, it's going to be, they'll buy more and they'll be in Marshall's and maybe even TJ Maxx and Home Goods. And when I was a little girl, my mom and I drove an hour and 15 minutes away to the very first Marshall's that was in New Jersey. And, you know, I've been a lifelong shopper of that store. So, you know, it's some unusual opportunities have come up. So to anybody out there, if you see it in Marshall's, snap a picture and I'd love to see it there. And, you know, and to just know that the universe works in amazing and miraculous ways. 5 days after my book was released, my beloved brother-in-law died of COVID. Ooh. And I had 7 family members that were sick with COVID while the book was being released, including my 88-year-old mother, and all of them are fine. But it was quite a shock. Right. And so I had to say to the universe, I need you to get the book out there. I got to be there for my family. I got to be there for my own grieving. You know, the temptation would have been to bury those feelings, but I know how dangerous that is. And I didn't, you know, and I want to say this to all of the listeners out there. Doing this work and creating and being a part of and learning these tools have shown me time and time and time again how they are saving my life. Because I had a huge toolkit to be able to work through my grief, to be able to be in loving support to my family, you know, to be able to move through that experience in a way that enabled me to still be healthy, not fall apart. You know, I took 2 days off and then I was back working with my clients because my work heals me as much as it heals people that I'm working with. And so please know that learning this stuff can only be a benefit to you. It can only be something that you can turn to in the middle of the night to bring yourself back into balance, to come up when you're crying, to help you to relieve those tears. It's all of this stuff is so incredibly powerful, and it's getting the skills themselves are having greater effect than they've ever had.
And I agree. And that has a lot to do with the planetary alignments that's going on that hasn't happened for 26,000 years. Wow. We are going into the age of Aquarius, and Pluto and no, Saturn and Jupiter are aligned. And that hasn't happened in 36,000 years because they're very slow moving planets. So when you understand the frequencies of all of this, that's actually helping. And when you can get beyond your barriers, which EFT does help you do get beyond your barriers, it helps you get, come on, my cat's bothering me and she wants to get up here every time I talk about.
I'm the Queen of Sheba over here. She knows it.
Come on.
She's like, I like that lady. She knows I'm a big cat fan.
Oh, really? Let me see.
Oh, yeah. I've had cats for my entire adult life.
Come on. Let's go. Come on. Come on. It's okay. There you go. I don't know if you can see her, but her name is Fergie.
Hey, Fergie. Yes, oh, my goodness. Look at that sweet face. Oh, Fergie.
Yeah, she's 10 years old. And she's the only girl. We have 3 cats, and she's the only girl. We have her brother who's like 16 pounds. She's a Norwegian forest cat.
Ooh.
And so she has like the M on her forehead, like Maine Coons do, but she's got the long hair. It's very soft. It's very, but she, whenever I do my readings or my energy work, she wants to be a part of it because she loves and resonates. And then I always get her chakras all straightened out and stuff because she gets harassed by the 2 boys. So.
Oh yeah, mine too. Mine come and they rub up on the laptop. One will sit right underneath my desk, right under where the laptop is, and one will be right behind it. So yeah, our little animal friends are the best healers there are.
So is in all the things that you have done, what has made you feel most complete in your life?
That's such a great question. What makes me feel most complete? It's got to be prayer. It really has to be prayer. And I went through 4 years of in-person classes and a 1.5-year internship to become a licensed prayer practitioner, to do a form of prayer that's for manifesting called spiritual mind treatment. And but all forms of prayer. I do that. I do asking prayers. I do prayers of gratitude. So I guess you could say communication with the higher power of my understanding. That has made the most difference to me. Whenever I'm, down or off or trying to get myself back in balance, God shows up for me in the most miraculous of ways, aligns things, heals me, creates a path before me to enable me to keep going and to keep going in joy. So, my faith is something that I pull apart, I question, I examine, I put it back together, and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
I love that. I love that. I want to thank you. I want to honor you. And I'm humbled that you came and agreed to this interview.
I'm honored that you asked me. We had such a sweet connection. It was really great.
And but the fact is I love, and I try to connect my corners with people that do the same thing, that people are just like me. And when you see people just like me, you see the love. And I think from everything, when I come from love, and then you come from prayer, which is love.
Yes.
And when I love those connections and I cherish them.
Me
so I
too.
just wanted to thank you for being here today. And
I'm happy to see you sharing your gifts in a bigger way, because you are an incredibly powerful and gifted and wise healer. And I'm thrilled that you're sharing.
Well, I've come out of the closet. I retired after 40 years of law enforcement.
Oh my God. I didn't know that.
Oh, I thought you knew that. I thought you knew that.
Wow.
So the thing is that, yes, the last 21 years, I worked with troubled youth. I worked with gang members on the streets. Wow. And in an alternative high school. And no one knew that I was one of those kids. I wasn't a gang member, but I was an orphan. Right. I was an orphan. So growing up, not having any support, the abandonment issues, all of that. And it was about paying it forward and paying it back. And so that it was hard. I mean, breaking up gang fights and I was at that point, I had no neck, Kris. I had no neck because I was bench pressing 200 pounds because I had to take care of myself on the streets and in the school.
Oh
And
my
when you
God.
jump in the middle of a gang fight and there's 12 of them and you just start pushing bodies to the side to break it up.
You have to be
And
super strong to be able to
yeah,
do that.
you're that bee that they don't play with.
You're a gladiator.
Well, it's one thing when I say I'm a galactic warrior, but I was also a warrior here and in dealing with the kids and helping them understand that.
Yeah, the warrior
So
archetype, very powerful. And how many of our kids need those warrior archetype role models to show them to move into healthy power. And
a
so,
lot, but the thing is they also need to see that divine feminine, that it's
yeah,
okay.
100%. It's the balance of the divine
Mhm.
masculine and the divine feminine. We need it both for sure.
So thank you so much for being here. I thought you knew. I thought you knew. So I had to do, you can't be this empathic, intuitive person, extreme empathic, intuitive person, but you're a walking lie detector. So it's like, you want to tell it to me again, how it went down? So
Hey, listen, that just shows you that the skills and the things that we have and that we've cultivated within ourselves are useful in every job, in every relationship. I want to see people in law enforcement that are deeply holy like you are. That's amazing.
So, but I couldn't tell anybody because that's one of those woo-woo things, that wasn't accepted back then. I mean, I started out at a police department in Wyoming, and then I moved to a penitentiary, a men's penitentiary, and I was one of 3 females back in the day that was working there. And they said, of course you want to do this because you want to see naked men. Well, no, not really. That has nothing to do with it, but that was the
God.
mindset. I mean, when you're talking archaic mindset, it's just
Right.
like whatever. So needless to say, but no, I thought you knew. I thought you knew. So
Love it.
again, I honor you. I'm so appreciative, and I actually hold you in high esteem and recommend you to everybody and anybody. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor.
It takes a special kind of individual to dream their thoughts and ideas and turn them into reality. Kris Ferraro has done that. She walked through her pains, her traumas. She stepped past her fears and stayed the course and had the courage to follow through to the end. Kris Ferraro, you've championed yourself. Now we know who you've become. Thank you for sharing your ideas, your thoughts, your dreams with us today.